everyone, my name's REDRUP. This is the It's Not a Phase podcast. On this episode, I'm joined by Lee and Luke from the band Lowlives. We talk about their long-awaited debut album, Freaking Out, how they've technically released an album before that one already, writing and putting together the album during the lockdowns, plans for new music already in the pipeline, and loads more. Before we get started, if you enjoy this podcast and you want to support it, you can do it in a few ways, and they all just take a few seconds to do. Number 1, you can hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening to or watching this. 2, leave a review or a comment. 3, give the podcast a follow on social media. And if you want to go the extra mile, there's also a Patreon and there's a web store too. You can find all the links that you need in the description, or you can head to itsnotaphase.co.uk. And now that that's all out of the way, let's jump right into this chat with Lowlives. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined by Lee and Luke from the band Lowlives. How are you both doing?
Hello, we are fantastic.
Wonderful. So obviously the debut record, Freaking Out, a lot of people, you've been a band for a few years now, but with any debut record, that brings in a lot of new fans who might not even know who the hell you are. So I guess just briefly explain how Lowlives came to be.
Go on, Luke, you go. This is
Yeah, no worries. It's like we've been in dark mode. We've been a band since 2017. Just getting around to the debut album now. Well, we came to be a band. Like, I quit music. I was in many bands and played music since a very young age, as did Lee. Long story short is that me and Lee were mates on Instagram. We'd never met up or hung out together, but we kind of knew of each other's bands and we followed each other on Instagram. Shared, the same passion for older German cars, and basically we kind of hit it off. I was posting about an old car, and he commented, and then we kind of went to the DMs, slid into the DMs. And I was just asking him about
bass.
I was asking him about Defiled and just like, what's going on? When's the next album coming? And he said that they're done. And I was like, oh, crazy. And he said that, he was writing demos and he was looking to do a different kind of band. And so we're like, all right, let's just throw back and forth some demos. I'd got like a ton of songs in a folder that I was sitting on. And so we just did that. And, we kind of thought, oh, this is cool. We're on the same page musically. So then, as any couple of Brits would, you need to go to the pub and assess if this is a good working relationship. So we went to the pub, had a skinful, realized this is great, and we're like, all right, cool, let's make a band. We just originally started scratching the creative itch. It was like, we weren't like, let's be a band, let's make an album, let's go try and tour and get signed or whatever. We were just like, let's make music, and we were getting high on the creative process of making music together with like we were new to each other, and so it just happened really organically and really quickly, and we were kind of amassing a lot of songs, and it kind of got to the point where we were like, maybe this should be a band. Like, we have pretty much an album worth of material.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think it's shit. Maybe we should record it properly. So we found, we basically went and found some extra members. So like my mate Steve, I've known him years. He's a legend. We'd always threatened to be in a band together, and he's a bass player. So we did. And then we didn't, we kind of tapped out all the resources for a guitarist. There was originally another lad in it that was kind of playing with Lee, and he was like, I'm gonna go, and I think he ended up in Headpie. He went, and did what he was doing and was kind of getting paid to do music. I don't think he wanted to go back to not getting paid to do music. So he kind of slipped out, and then, we basically started looking for a guitarist, messaging around, and Bo, who produced the first record, Bo Michelle, he knew Jackson and connected us, and then, that's kind of where we got that sort of final cornerstone, and we officially became a band. So
right.
That was like probably late 2016, mid 2017, that kind of period. And long story short, why is the debut album coming out in 2024? Well, it's actually really our second album. The first album was put together, recorded, ready to go we shopped around, and then the pandemic hit, and so we decided the best for that would be, because we didn't know how long the pandemic was going to be, was to
Yeah.
break up that album into a series of 2 song releases. So we did 5 2-song releases spanning through the pandemic into sort of mid to late 2021. Um, and so technically this is album 2, but externally it's only album 1. So
Right.
that kind of explains that gap.
Yeah. How close is that deadline then? Have you, because I guess obviously at some point, if you like announce this is going to be the initial album and then it's out there for people to know it's going to be an album, then actually, at that point it's too late to turn back and do what you plan to do, when you
I think people
songs.
knew, didn't they, Lee? Because we posted we're in the
Yeah,
studio recording an album, and then we never explained, oh, we're breaking the album up because of this.
Yeah.
We started
we just
trickling the
did it.
songs out, and everyone just kept complaining about when you're going to release an album, and that has been the cycle since.
Yeah, every day. When's the album coming? It's like we kind of just gave you one.
Yeah. It's
Quite
just
funny though,
not.
because there's a few people online that have made what they think that record, the order would have been, and some of
Right.
them are really close. There's one kid that made full artwork and stuff for it. It's
Oh,
fucking
really?
crazy. Yeah, so yeah, it's very confusing for our label whenever they look in our Dropbox and stuff, because everything's labeled LP1, LP2, and they're just like, what the fuck?
Oh.
Um, so yeah, it's nice to find it. And the problem is also this record is 2 years coming too. Like we've had this record done and for 2 years now.
Right.
So we're shopping it and just a load of crap happening. And then finally Spine Farm came along, and obviously then when you sign to a label, you need to give it a lead up time as well. So that adds even more time on. So we've already started recording the next record.
Right.
we're gonna get ahead now.
Yeah, this record was going to be self-released last year. We already had the roadmap and the release dates and everything, and we were like, all right, let's get this out. It's been too long. And then, Spine Farm was like, whoa, 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 let's do a deal. And we were like, all right, sweet. And then obviously it turned out to be the best thing, but it whacked another year onto the bill. So
Yeah. Yeah, you self-funded it as well, I think, didn't you? Like, so basically you did everything and then Spine Farm just came along at the last minute to kind of help push it
yeah,
out there, I suppose.
Yeah, it was in the middle of like COVID. It was just like, what are we gonna do? Like, we can't play shows, can't do anything. We're like, let's just go and fucking do this record. So we came to England to do it, and we recorded it at a chapel. And it was one of those like lockdown in place situations for like 2 weeks. So it was perfect. We just lived in the studio and we didn't do anything. Um, yeah, that's fucking hell. When did we even go to chapel?
2021.
2021 was it? Yeah. Fucking, it's been a
Yeah,
while.
it was 2021 because
Yeah.
remember it had just changed from like code red in England to like code orange, and it was
Oh,
like
yeah. I can't remember all those codes and
it was
levels.
it was
Levels.
the
Yeah.
threat level wasn't 5. Yeah, it was like basically it went from having to quarantine at the airport for 2 weeks in a hotel financed by yourself
Hmm.
to quarantine in place. So you still had to quarantine for 2 weeks, but it just didn't have to be at an airport where you were checked on. They just doorstepped you wherever you were, and you had to go out and give 2 COVID tests. So that was definitely 2021, because I
Okay.
feel like things had calmed down a little bit by then. It was like second wave was upon us, you know.
Second wave.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it was just like we knew we just needed to go and get it done, and there was no bands being like, who's going to be signing a band in the middle of COVID? Like labels, didn't know what the fuck was going to be happening, so we're just like, let's just fucking go and do it off our own backs, and then people will come to us. So we didn't have any external people pushing us like, oh, we need this song, we need a single or anything like that. So we just did it off our own backs, man. Like, sold all of our belongings. Like, I sold guitars. Luke sold his fucking car.
Oh, wow.
The-
Commitment,
yeah.
man. Yeah.
The BMW that we discussed when we first met. So yeah, it's the binding BMW. But yeah, it's mental, man. Like, just we had to get it done. We got a real good deal on it. Like, we just got a random email from Adrian Bushby's like management, like, oh, I really like the band, because he'd heard us on like Radio 1 or something. And we were like, oh, it's just some sort of joke, because dude's done Foo Fighters and Muse and stuff, and it was not a joke. And then we
Just a
just
few small names,
made it work. Yeah, it's just, and then we just flew over there to do it. I think we were going to be doing it in the Muse studio just and then like 2 weeks before we were flying, it changed to Chapel, which I was stoked to record at Chapel because all of the bands that I loved as a kid, all the Roadrunner bands, all recorded there. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it was actually fucking awesome. It's just an old converted church, and because we couldn't go anywhere, I think it made the album what it is. Like most of the time, you don't record albums like that anymore. You just tracking everything individually, and just it made it have slightly more of a human feel to it, I think.
Yeah. I guess then because you obviously had no distractions because of these lockdowns and all that kind of stuff. Like your only vision was the album. That was your life for the 2 weeks that you stayed there, I guess.
That was literally it. Just wake up every day, we'd have breakfast together. What are we going to do today? We're going to try and do this. And we just had the board and just get through the board. We did it really fast. We finished really early. We had like 3 days left. Yeah, we recorded 2 extra songs, which actually ended up on the record, which is good. And then 2 of the ones that were slightly weaker, left. We did like a live session. But yeah, the only breaks we had, the Euros were on when we were there. And that was the only break we had, was to go around the TV and watch. It was funny because obviously our band is made up of 2 Brits, 2 Americans. The Americans were just like, man, are we really stopping what we're doing now to go and watch this? We're like, yes, it's fucking important. And it was wicked. It was the best time.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to do next record is going to be done like that too. Like go to a place that's away from everything else, away from distractions, and just get on with it.
Yeah. It must be so relieving then, like a weight off your shoulders that this album is finally being out, like coming out. Like it's not just yours anymore.
No. Well, we're bored of these songs.
I mew, yeah, there's that too. Like, because sitting on it for so long, you kind of like start wondering, is this shit? Yeah, the singles have all come out, and we're stoked on that. The response has been great, and obviously with the album dropping Friday, I think like in the back of my mind, it's like I've almost become numb to it. Like it's Friday, like it's a couple days away till the album's got released, but there's so much other things going on in the background. We've got some tours and planning for that going on. There's a lot of bits going. So it's like I have to keep reminding myself. It's like when you get older, you forget it's your birthday. You're just kind of like, oh, whatever. It's just a day, innit? Like, I'm in the place now where I've like sat wanting this to come out for so long that I've just been like, when will it ever be out? Now it's like finally upon us. I'm kind of like, all right, cool. Let's get this done. Let's get the next album going then.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last 2 weeks is when it's felt like real at last. Like it's every morning Jack's like, well, fucking album comes out next Friday. We're like, oh shit, it is. So, yeah, it'd be nice to just have it finally out.
Yeah, I guess as well.
And then we can start playing those songs live. That's the other thing. We've been doing tours whilst this whole record's been done, and we're just like, we can't play any of the songs from it because no one's going to fucking know them. So
yeah,
so it'd be nice to actually change our set list for the first time in 4 fucking years.
Yeah. You could have been bold and just done a set just of these new songs that people have never heard of.
We started like it got to a point when we were just throwing them in a couple.
It's not like anyone really knows the other stuff. We're a baby band, man. Like we do support tours. It's not like we're coming to London and playing like a sellout Lowlives show where everyone knows the classics. There ain't no classics yet.
Might change in a few days. Like
hopefully, hopefully.
Well, you said you started like putting together the next album already. What's that kind of sounding like in comparison? I guess it's the same Lowlives, but you've kind of already evolved in the 2 years that no one's heard this record yet.
Interestingly, we talked about this when we were doing some writing. The first album, so the album that was not released as an album but a collection of singles, there's some elements on that I don't think are necessarily present on the album coming out Friday, Freaking Out, right? And so we talked about that and just kind of like, all right, now how do we make both of these kind of elements marry? Like we went almost a little bit more raw on this latest record that's coming out Friday, and basically, we used a lot of, in the early days of writing, we used a lot of kind of like verby leads and kind of like, some affected kind of guitar stuff that I think we didn't I don't know I don't know why we didn't go there more on this record. I think it's probably because of one pedal actually. Aid had this Shinai vintage pedal that was like insane. So that ended up being on everything. And I think in that phase of where you start to soup everything up with a bit of verb, it was just kind of like, let's blast the Shinai on it. So the album's a
Let's
little
put
more
the
aware
horrible pedal in front of everything.
than early stuff. So I think with the tunes that we're working on now for like album three, I think that we've definitely married some of that stuff together a bit more, you know? Or at
Mm.
least that's what it feels like now. It's hard to see the wood through the trees when you're in it, right? And then
Yeah.
obviously there's the writing phase, and then there's like demoing phase, and then there's like final recording and mastered, right? Like they're all different things come out during that process. But right now, where we are in the demo phase, where we've demoed a lot of songs, I would say that we've paid more attention to trying to include more of that personality that we had in that stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the obviously the album's coming out soon, Freaking Out. There's a lot of like lyrical themes on there that are quite dark. Like, you look at a song like Liar, and that's talking about, struggling to even communicate your mental health struggles. And then you've got a song like Damien, which I think is about the disappearance of someone in 1996.
Yeah, there's a kid called Damien Nettles. I grew up on the Isle of Wight, and
Right.
when we were younger, that was like a massive story of this kid because he was kind of a couple of years older, kind of in the same. He had long hair and he was, an oddball, which I guess I am. Yeah, and he disappeared and never been found. And it's this giant thing that no one ever knew. They've made like BBC documentaries on it and stuff. And randomly, like me and Luke have been big fans of Alkaline Trio, and they have that song Private Eye, and we've always been like, man, the lyrics on that are so fucking good. And we're like, maybe we should write a song like that. And then we said, oh, there's this kid Damien Nettles that went missing. Maybe we can tie it into something like that. And then randomly, wasn't it like your neighbor Luke that was just like heard the song and was just like, is this about this kid? Like in
yeah,
Arizona, she knew about
it,
this story.
it's a trip because she listens to murder mystery podcasts and podcasts, podcasts,
Podcasters.
and
Podcasters.
yeah, it's a new word, man. You watch, man. It's gonna be on Reddit now. So she listens to all that stuff, and I guess she knew about Damien's disappearance. Um, and yeah, like neighbors are always like, "What? You got any music?" And so like I'd shared Damien the tune with them, and they were like, "Oh, this is wicked." And she didn't listen to the song and be like, "Oh, is this about him?" But when I explained to her what the song was about, this lad on Isle of Wight that went missing, who's kind of in our age group, and it's kind of one of those unsolved situations from my side of the pond. She was like, I swear I've listened to a podcast about this. And I was like, no way. Like how somebody in like suburban Arizona hearing about someone from the Isle of Wight disappearing is like, I thought that was pretty crazy. So yeah, the connection was pretty nuts. But Lee growing up on Isle of Wight and this kind of being similar circles and kind of like similar age group, and it kind of makes you look inwards a bit and just kind of realize how lucky you are that you're not a person that went missing, or I'm 43 now. I've made it this long, you know what I mean?
Completed
So
it.
it's interesting. So when we kind of sat down to write about that, we were like, we've never really written a song that's about a real event, like a true life event, like obviously reference points to things that have happened in our lives, but that was definitely the first time we've taken a topic, and like Lee obviously had the story that he remembers about it from growing up, and so we went in and researched some articles and looked about it and read up about it more just to make sure we were kind of, his story that he remembers is kind of close to what
Did
happened.
this really happen?
We just kind of took that story and like lent into the feelings of it and kind of what it must be like trying to find this person. And so yeah, that's kind of how that came about. And again, with the paint job of kind of how Alkaline Trio did Private Eye, I love how that song is structured lyrically. And so yeah, just the kind of whole sleuthing around on stuff, so it just kind of got that paint job.
Yeah. Yeah. Were there any
The
other?
rest of the songs are just sad and miserable, like low life songs usually
Well,
are.
I mean, Closer Than You Know is like pretty heavily influenced too.
Yeah.
know, Lee read a piece in the paper that just made him write this whole song, which to me is like one of like the on the album, it's lyrically one of the best songs we've written. Lee just come out. He came out with the tune, and we had like some adgy vaggy kind of melodies like going on. You know, we didn't have any solid lyrics or anything yet. And then he's like, I think I've got lyrics for this song. And I was like, cool, man. Like, let's hear him. And he told me what it was about, and then like sent the version with him singing it in. And I was just like, I felt like I got hit by a train. That's like how emotionally it affected me. Like on the first listen, I was like, whoa. It was intense. And so yeah, like I don't know if you want to explain it, Lee, but
Yeah, there was this like article in the newspaper that this guy, he'd been writing, you know, like how you could just write, what would it be classed as, not kind of classifieds in a paper, and he was basically just writing to, not like a suicide note, but more of like a kind of a letter to his wife to say that he's sorry and that she's way better off without him, kind of thing. And it was just super sad. It was just, and he'd been putting this thing in the paper for a while. It's almost like the Pina Colada song. You know, when the
That was like the inspiration, yeah.
yeah, the inspiration was the Pina Colada song. But yeah, it was it's just super dark, and like I kind of went from that really, and then made it like, you know, if I was writing it to my wife kind of thing. And it's not a happy song, that's for sure. But I was really happy with how the lyrics came out in the end. Normally I kind of get pieces in place, and then me and Luke get together and then we work on it. So it was quite weird to just be like, I think I kind of have this.
well, as well, it's like you're like, it's not a very happy song. Actually, I think it is if you don't scratch too deep on the lyrics.
Yeah.
It sounds like, you know, it sounds like I'm always there for you, basically.
Yeah,
But you really dig into the lyrics, then you realize like, okay, yeah, this is a grimmer.
Grimmer. But I guess with that song, we were talking about it in another interview the other day. I think you could interpret that song in so many different ways. I mean, our A&R guy Dan at Spine Farm, like he's obsessed with that song, and his version of it is totally different than what my version of it was. So it's kind of nice to hear other people's interpretations of our lyrics, especially that. So.
I do love it when someone asks you like, when you guys wrote that, like, did you mean this? And then you hear an explanation, and you're like, not even close. But I absolutely love that the song has become personal to you, and that's what you take from it, because that's what music is, right? It's not a
Yeah.
literal thing always, right? And we definitely try to steer away from being too literal with our lyrics to allow, you know, the listener to create their own world and their own story when they listen to something, right? You know what I mean? Like what their experience is, their happiness, their joys, their pains, their hurt. You know, like you can literally like take that from any music and apply your narrative to the music, you know, if it's not too on the nose, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we try to do that.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys have got some real life shit to catch up on shortly. So, what other plans? Obviously, the album's dropping, and I think you've got a download festival set as well. What else is planned for 2024 so far?
We have, yeah, we have Download. We're going to do some shows of Atreyu in Europe around Download, because obviously, because we live in the States, we can't just fly over for one festival. I wish
Yeah.
we could, but financially we cannot.
Yeah.
So we've got some shows in Europe with Atreyu. We know those guys quite well, so that should be fun. And then we have some shows in July in England, which we'll announce hopefully soon. Like, I don't know, it's all confirmed and everything. We're just waiting on when we can announce it. That's in July. And then we have some American festivals out here. They're like Download size. They're like Danny Wimmer festivals. So we're doing Louder Than Life in Kentucky and
Aftershock in Sacramento.
Aftershock Sacramento.
It's pretty bananas that we got on those bills. I'm not gonna lie.
The lineups stacked, like ridiculous lineups. So we're going to do those, and then we'll obviously do shows around those, like satellite shows as well. Because obviously we got to drive all the way to Kentucky, so we have to get some shows along the way.
Awesome.
And then we'll see. Hopefully, maybe back to England again later in the year, England and Europe again. probably winter time, hopefully. So we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks very much, guys. Really exciting about this album. I've listened to it a bunch of times. It's great. You should
Mate,
be proud of it. So,
wicked. Thank
yeah,
you.
congrats.
Thanks
Before I
for
let
having us on, Zach.
Yeah, no worries, guys. And yeah, before I let you go, any final words, anything you want to say or plug? Floor's yours.
Oh man, that's a tough one.
Please, bar.
Honestly, said like 50 times the album's out Friday, but yeah, seriously, go check it out and just if you hate it, come light us up in the comments too. It's all good, man.
Yeah. Let's beat that algorithm, baby.
Well, thanks very much, guys. I'll let you go. Best of luck with work, and I should be at download. So if I catch you there, I'll get you the pint.
Oh, wicked.
Awesome.
That'd be great.
Yep.
Nice to see you, man.
Zach.
Yeah. You too, guys. Yeah, I'll let you go. Take care of
Later.
yourselves.
Later, dude. Bye.
Right, bye. And that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in to It's Not a Phase. If you enjoyed this episode, then don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Leave a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Follow the podcast on social media, and maybe even join the Patreon or grab some merch from the store. You can find everything that you need at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again. Hopefully catch you on the next one. And remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.